Hi, everyone. No reason to do a countdown. We got thunderstorms that have popped up and just a couple of isolated storms along an outflow boundary. They finally developed. I didn't think anything would develop this evening. The models have been insisting on it. It was looking like definitely storms were not as likely, but we still had the storm chances in there. We didn't drop them, and I'm glad we didn't because well, there's definitely some lightning and thunderstorm activity that's popping up. So, first of all, let's give you a detailed tour of the radar, and then we'll take a look at some of our WeatherBug network cameras. But I can tell you this storm is mainly a hail and wind threat. There's no tornado potential. Storm's very elevated. And not only that, but it's starting to weaken. Uh, Baseball size hail was, from the storms a few days ago, but these storms, not the case. We've got a little bit of hail, size of quarters. Now it's even a little bit smaller. So we're looking at, quarter size hail with even less and 60-mile-an-hour winds. But even that storm's starting to weaken. You can kind of see how it's barely moving. There's just very little steering currents at all with these storms. So they're going to be working their way to the southeast. It's kind of isolated, but these storms could fire off additional storms because of what we call outflow boundaries. They're like mini cold fronts, and I'll show you what sparked off these storms. I went outside to see if I could see any bit of a lightning show, and there wasn't much that you could see. You could see a little, but um, you couldn't see a bunch of structure. Let's just say that because there's a lot of cloud debris, what we call low-level grunge. Let's see if we can get a WeatherBug network camera from P Ridge. This had quite a bit of lightning on it. We'll see if we can show you that. So we'll take the camera off the screen. We'll look at this. And so anything severe in the Rogers area? No. In fact, you're not even getting any rain. There's some lightning bolts that are shooting out of the storm, so you got to be careful. There you see some of the lightning flashes. But no, the Rogers area is currently pretty quiet, and that's the nature of these isolated storms. It's absolutely pouring just to the north of P Ridge in a very rural area in southeastern McDonald County. But Jacket and getting close to Seligman, that area is getting rain. But Rogers is not seeing anything. There is definitely an impressive light show along the state line. There's no doubt about that. And the camera doesn't pick it all up, but I will say the lightning has gotten a lot less, Jake. So I appreciate you been on here. I've been mongering as well. Yeah. Been wondering what was going on. Finally, storms decided to develop until the very end of the day. Nothing about like waiting last second. So let me bring up our P Ridge WeatherBug network camera. This is a full screen here. We'll see if we can see some lightning. It definitely was a lot more earlier. How about Pinnacle Parkway Towers? I was seeing a lot more lightning. The lightning is definitely weakened compared to what it was earlier. It's hailing in Eureka Springs, and I can believe that. We'll work our way to the southeast because that storm severe. Thank you, Tasha, for that that report. What's the size of the hail, by the way? Because there's a look at the storm in Eureka Springs. Pea-size hail. I got you. Yeah, a little bit of pea-size hail, especially on the south side of. Dime size. All right, so that's a little bit bigger. That's about 3/4 of an inch. Still not quite severe, but again, the severe thunderstorm warning does still go. That's a good question, Daniel. I think there's going to be concerns about the Godsmack concert at the Walmart Amp. So, and I'll show you why, and we'll get to that on the timing here in just a bit. There's a complex of storms that's going to be diving in from Kansas, and it works its way southeast. It's going to have a little more steering currents, a little more flow than this energy. You can see how it just kind of stays right in place. Just had some hail, lots of hail south of Eureka Springs. Cool, Beth. Appreciate that report. That's exactly what this shows. So let me show you what I mean here. And let me know if that hail was about about quarter size. So let me show you going back in time here. We'll look at the hail indication. So this is the hail size on the south side of Eureka Springs. This is when it was initially warned as a severe thunderstorm right there. And don't know when the demolition derby is, Michael. Is that this Saturday? Typically, those are always Saturday. That's very much uncertain, Saturday's weather at this point. There's a chance of storms, but I don't know if it's going to cancel plans or anything like that. Cool. Send some pics of lightning in P Ridge. I appreciate that. Yes, it is May 13th. That's still a long ways out, Michael. So let's just, when we get closer to that, we'll give you an idea. There's a chance of storms, but we don't know if it's exactly going to occur right during the demolition derby. That's a fun thing to go to, though, for sure. A little bit of mud and some rain earlier on, that'll make that event even more fun. So, yeah, the lightning has definitely calmed down from what it was earlier. So, whenever lightning kind of weakens and starts to drop down, that's a sign that the storm is on a weakening trend. So these are pulse severe storms. They develop and then they weaken. You can see the hail size is not as big anymore. P Ridge is still getting some rain, but Rogers isn't seeing anything, and it's just going to be real isolated with these storms. Notice one developing near Branson. So what sparked all this off? It was an outflow boundary, and I'll show you what that was here as we look at the satellite and radar. So there's the complex of storms. What we were watching was this one little isolated cell. We knew that wouldn't make it, and you can see that falling apart. But this complex of storms eventually did develop what's called an outflow boundary. You can see it right here. It was tougher to see on visible satellite, but you can finally see it on infrared, and there's the development right there along the boundary. And we had plenty of moisture, plenty of instability, and that sparked off a few of those isolated storms. And there still is a chance that a couple more storms could develop along that outflow boundary. In fact, it looks like some development is trying to take place very close to Veneta. So if we look at the radar here, and this is just in its initial stages. It doesn't show up, but it will show up on this. So check this out. I'm going to go to Mega Doppler and look to the northwest. Right here by Veneta, you'll see this development. There. That's an isolated storm that looks like it's developing. That probably won't make it into northwest Arkansas. If we do get any more rain, it would be these isolated storms. But honestly, I think these just fall apart and collapse. They don't really put off any additional storm activity. There's not going to be enough energy that's going to force those other storms to develop. But there's always the chance of that, so you can't completely remove it. And that's exactly why the hail was dime size, some just a little bit bigger. South of Eureka Springs. I'll pass along that information here. Lightning and thunder dropping off. It only rained about 20 drops. Isn't that crazy how those isolated storms work? But let's give you an idea of what's expected here. If you didn't catch the earlier broadcast, we do have storm chances, basically multiple storm chances throughout the week. And we'll take you through all of that. This is such a complicated forecast because we have all these storms that basically are from chain reaction events. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, that's going to be a different story, but it's chain reaction events that's going to lead to thunderstorm potential for the next few days. So let's see what the latest model has here. This is the HRRR. It shows a little bit more isolated storm development that could occur, and then it's basically done with, and that's during the early morning hours. Now, what happens tomorrow is we get this complex of storms that drops in from, and I'm going to zoom out here a little bit just to show you what I'm talking about. So we zoom out, you can see this big complex of storms that's going to be evolving and developing from Nebraska and northwestern Kansas. Now, there's a good reason for that because that's where the energy is. That's where the split flow jet stream pattern is. And that's where this northern split of the jet is going to lead to some additional thunderstorm activity. And then in that northwest flow, this complex of storms will be dropping southeast right here. So this is tomorrow afternoon. And what we do is we have a ridge of high pressure that's basically developing. And so with that ridge like this, it's basically going to take those storms and bring them to the southeast. So watch what happens here as we put this into motion. There you see the storm activity. Again, some isolated storms potentially developing during the evening. Will they rain over Rogers? That's a question that remains to be seen, but I think additional storm activity does move in close to 10 o'clock. So that's something that we'll have to watch. And then you can see that falls apart. Now, if that rings true, then the Godsmack concert goes off without a hitch and the storms don't move in on time. I have my doubts that that's perfect. Let's look at this. This is the newest model here. And look, this model had storms earlier and now it backtracked and now it doesn't have anything. This is really going to be a headache of a week. I'm telling you that. But there's a look at, no, then it does show storms, then it doesn't. It's just like, it's whatever. There's that complex of storms that comes in tomorrow. It dies out. Now, notice that we've got rain moving in from the northwest, and then we've got this rain coming in from the south. Now, the rain coming in from the south, I think, is a better bet for rain. It's going to be the best chance of rain that we have all week. It's going to be, at this point, Wednesday into Thursday, especially Wednesday night into Thursday morning. You can see all that rain popping up. Now, this is a long-range forecast, and that remains to be seen if that actually does happen. I think the Razorbacks game will be okay because the storms will be out of there by then, but there's just a lot of rain chances. So if we want to break this down for you, this Tuesday evening is basically Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And then we got Wednesday afternoon that sparks off additional storms. And then that continues into Thursday morning. And then Friday through Sunday, we've got chances for storms as well. And then I kind of dropped it off to Monday to 20%. So Monday was 20% in case you want to see. But here's what we've got for the week ahead. Now you tell me when it's going to rain. You've got isolated storms that pop up. There's the low coming through. So Wednesday night into Thursday morning, very likely chances for rain if that low does in fact develop. And then you could see Saturday, we got isolated storms that pop up. And Sunday, we got storms. And then Monday, it also continues, but maybe finally starts to push through and a front moves in and that kind of clears out all the energy. Deanna, hope you're doing well. Thank you. And thanks for watching. Here's a look again at the thunderstorm activity starting to wind down. I'll stay on here until the last of the severe thunderstorm warnings are expired. But yeah, this energy is done. So why didn't it sustain itself? Why didn't it last longer? Well, because there's not a lot of upper level support. So if you can think about it this way, the thunderstorm rises and then you got to have an updraft, downdraft balance. Well, if you don't have a lot of winds aloft to exhaust the precipitation to the northeast away from the rain core, then you're going to get an updraft collapsing down on itself, killing the downdraft. So we had a little bit of low level. We had a little bit of bulk wind shear that allowed for those storms to pop and develop. But mostly what it was the instability that was in place. You felt that this weekend, Saturday into Sunday, was very warm and humid, and then that had storm activity. Yeah, northeast Arkansas is also getting rain and thunderstorms. So good point on that. Let me show you what we've got on that. And Ryan Vaughn's all on top of that. So let's see here. Here's a look at the thunder. You actually had a tornado warning that was in southeast Missouri, in the Boot Heel of Missouri. Now, that was from what's called an MCV. So let's get to that. I'll show you this. There's the outflow boundary that formed those storms. But look at this complex of storms that developed. Now, did you see that right at the tail end of that? There was a low pressure system that developed. So what happens with a complex of storms, and this is what I mean by a chain reaction forecast, is that Rael, you get this over time when a thunderstorm complex remains intact, it develops a low pressure system. You can see the way that's spinning too. So there it is. It's not quite developed yet. There it is developing. And so you get what's called an MCV. Notice east of that low, you got the most intense thunderstorms. That's where most of the energy is. That's where the wind shear is. That's where all the ingredients are for severe weather potential. Earlier, it goes so quick, but there was a tornado warning. You can see it right there. There's the tornado warning. And that was for that cell that was just east of the MCV. So this is that kind of chain reaction forecast that can really throw things off. And then you'll see if we step forward in time, that tornado warning expires and it becomes severe thunderstorm warnings. So MCV is a mesoscale convective vortex. Yeah. Sometimes there's vortices, but typically it's a focused vortex, so meaning a low pressure system. And yes, a vortex is also a tornado, but it's a more localized. Yeah, the lightning is definitely decreased. So, what was I going to show you? Yeah, the lightning is definitely a lot less. These are some of our weather headlines. That storm does have destructive tags, 80-mile-an-hour plus. And that makes sense because that's on the eastern edge periphery. Which, by the way, Josh Weisel, the trusty Texas Tech WRF, has really been pretty bad lately. And I've not been impressed. Well, really, I've not been impressed with a lot of models. But rain and storm chances each day. That doesn't mean during the afternoon it's going to storm. It just means each day will have at least some type of storm potential. Complex of storms tomorrow night. That's looking most likely. The best chance for rain is going to be Wednesday into Thursday, mainly Wednesday night into Thursday. Unsettled weekend weather for graduation ceremonies. We have all this crazy energy. We have this split flow. Let me show you what I mean here. I did my Fox 20 forecast like this, and let's see if I deleted it. I don't think I did. Yeah, here you go. So look at all this. Look at the complexity. The complexity of this weather pattern. First of all, you got all these little subtle disturbances that are firing off thunderstorms. There's not a lot of focus in terms of the upper level support. Over us, we got a little bit. That's why the anvil's blue from left to right, from west to east. But right here, you got all these little waves of energy and disturbances that can fire off additional storms. But it's a split flow weather pattern. If you notice, the jet stream is flowing from southwest to northeast over the northern Rockies. And then you got the subtropical jet that's farther south. That's fueling those storms. And there was also an MCV that formed some tornado potential in eastern Texas and Louisiana. Several tornado warnings today. That's the split flow weather pattern that we got to deal with. But there's all these little disturbances. Now, the models stink at this type of pattern. They always have, and I hope they don't always will, but but they do because there's no sampling of the upper air soundings. Mexico doesn't have a very good upper air sounding network. Yes, there's plane data that flies through the atmosphere and measures the same stuff that a weather balloon does, but not the same. You got all these little disturbances. Now, there's a low pressure system that's going to organize from a complex of storms. That's our chain reaction as that lifts north. That brings us the rain on Wednesday, and you can see it right there. That's the low that develops, if it really truly does. I believe it does. But then you see it lifting north and getting closer Wednesday. This little disturbance right here, it's kind of like a band in a hurricane. that outer band will form showers and storms that the models don't show. And then you've got this moving in, and that's when the lift increases even more. So the most likely lift is going to be at this time Tuesday night into Wednesday, or shoot, excuse me, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Once that low passes, guess what? We have subsidence. So I don't think there's going to be rain Thursday afternoon just because of the subsidence behind that wave. Then we've got this low that's coming in Thursday. And so there's a day 4 convective outlook. Then that lifts to the northeast, that moves out. And then we got this additional low pressure system with all these little subtle pieces of energy. We got the instability that isn't going anywhere. We got the Gulf of Mexico that's open for moisture and thunderstorm development. And that's just a mess. That's just where you don't have a clue when the rain chances are going to be. So it's kind of like a summertime pattern. This is definitely not like May. Now, the storm chances may be winding down dramatically as we move into next week because you can see this upper level ridge that's taking place. And yes, a lot of people already coining it the death ridge. Um, I don't know if I buy a death ridge, but yes, that's definitely going to be a lack of thunderstorms, which would be great because that's for my daughter's graduation week and high school graduation Thursday, my daughter's graduation party on Friday. I'm off of work next Wednesday through Friday for family coming into town. It would be great if there were no storms. I would love that. So the last of the severe thunderstorm warning has been expired. The lightning is decreased. There's additional thunderstorm energy that's popping up, but it's probably not going to hold together. That cell near Veneta is starting to develop, but again, starting to get capped. Yes, there will be a little bit of isolated development that could briefly flare up to severe potential, but overall, pretty quiet throughout the rest of the evening. So, yeah, thank you, Tasha. I'm excited about it for sure. Um, it's starting to get real, real, if you will. real. For real. She's graduating. It's crazy. Can't believe that. So yeah, there's that ridge of high pressure. Now, when we look at the QPF forecast, you're going to see quite a bit of rain. Of course, this can change. It can always change dramatically. Also, too, we've got a day 2 convective outlook that's going to be updated here in about an hour and a half. You can see severe storms possible for mainly Tuesday night. This is in northwest Arkansas. And you can see that level 2 severe weather risk. Notice how it drops off as it gets farther southeast. That's because the complex is going to essentially weaken as it makes its way southeast. By the way, I showed you the graph model. This is the HRRR showing that storm complex dropping south and then weakening, but still holding together to bring us a little bit of rain. So we'll see how that evolves. And then finally, one more thing, the Weather Prediction Center 3-day outlook for rain. Let's see here. Where is that? I got that right here. The excessive rainfall forecast. This is the day 3, meaning Wednesday into Thursday. Remember when that low comes in. That's why that heavy rain threat is oriented from southwest to northeast. So, all right, guys, I don't think I have anything else for you. So let me know if you have a question. I'll let this go for a few more minutes. Thanks for joining on, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. I will say this pattern is a little bit of a nuisance, not only for you, but for meteorologists trying to predict timing and getting down the time of the storms. But if I wanted to say exactly when all this stuff will occur, it's going to be tomorrow evening. And then we've got Wednesday evening into Thursday morning with some additional stuff happening Wednesday afternoon. And then we've got storms popping up for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame. We'll continue to refine that. Early June pattern is coming as early as June bug. June bugs are out there big time too. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. Is it going to be a washout? No, I don't think so, but there will be storm chances at times. So if you're walking Spring Street and those areas, you'll might have to go into the shops for a little bit while it rains. So, but I hope you have a great vacation, Desiree. That'd be a great time maybe going to a bed and breakfast. Those are always fun in Eureka, and so a great time for sure. I'll keep you updated though. As we get closer, I'll know more and more about the weekend forecast, but we'll continue to refine that. All right, guys, enjoy the lightning, what's left of it, and thunderstorm activity is winding down. And I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow.